Hello ladies and gentlemen, today I want to talk to you about bluegrass music. How many of you listen to bluegrass music? Bluegrass music is a part of my culture. Some of my kinfolks had a part in putting bluegrass music on the map. These kinfolks are Dr. Ralph Stanley and his brother Carter Stanley. We're going to discuss Dr. Ralph Stanley, mountains in Virginia, and some bluegrass instruments. So coming up, I'll talk a little bit about Dr. Ralph Stanley, and then I'll tell you a little about the mountains in Virginia. So if bluegrass interests you, sit down, listen up, and you might learn a little something. Dr. Ralph Stanley, he earned a doctorate in music. That's why they call him Doctor. And his brother Carter started playing bluegrass in 1946. They were considered the first generation of bluegrass musicians. They formed several bands over the years and were inducted into the Grand Ole Opry and the International Bluegrass Music Hall of Fame. Some of Ralph's recent work was featured on Oh Brother Where Art Thou video with the song Oh Death. Now I've told you a little bit about Ralph Stanley, let me tell you a little bit about the mountains in Virginia. Bluegrass is very popular in the mountains of Virginia, and that's where Dr. Ralph Stanley is from, the mountains in Virginia where he was born and raised. I took a trip out there when I was a kid. My parents, I was real young, and we visited Ralph Stanley and his brother Carter's grave and some other kinfolks that still live out there. It was very pretty. The mountains of Virginia were good to Ralph, and he was named Distinguished and Outstanding Virginian in his lifetime. So I've touched a little bit on the mountains, and I want to talk about some of the bluegrass instruments. The five-string banjo is probably the most important and recognizable bluegrass instrument, which is what Dr. Ralph Stanley played. The acoustic guitar is probably the second most used instrument, this is what I have to show you. That's the acoustic guitar. And I tell you, you're not going to have bluegrass without a fiddle or a bass, maybe a juice harp, washboard. Got to be in there somewhere too. So that's the most popular of the bluegrass instruments. So now I'll talk to you about Dr. Ralph Stanley, the mountains in Virginia, and some of the instruments in bluegrass music. Like I've said, bluegrass is part of my culture, and some of my kinfolks had a part in putting it on the map. Ralph is a big part of bluegrass music, and he was from the mountains in Virginia where he used to play the banjo before his passing a few years back. Thank you all for letting me tell you about some of my culture of bluegrass and family. Thank you.